Trump goes after Joe Biden at his rally and pretty much everyone else. Democrats think Obama was a lot better than George Washington. I'll tell you why. That's not only not surprising, it's not even that big of a deal. Finally, Don Lemon is upset. We'll tell you why. All that's coming up right now on I'm Right. Donald Trump was in rally mode last night in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and let me just tell you, get used to that. As we all know, but let me reiterate for you, presidential elections are about swing states. Specifically, they're about swing voters in swing states, but that's getting a little too in the weeds. They're about swing states. So Donald Trump is going to be in rally mode in Pennsylvania and Ohio and North Carolina and Florida and Wisconsin, so on and so forth, a lot. He's basically going to live in those states for the next year. So get used to me saying Donald Trump was in Pennsylvania for a rally last night quite a few times because he's going to set up shop there and remind everybody, oh, your unemployment numbers, that was me. And he needs those people to win elections. Now, the Democrats are currently in a primary. That's not exactly news, even though we should do some breaking news noise or something when I break some amazing stuff like that. But keep in mind, they're in an audition. Democrat primary presidential candidates are currently in an audition. And this is the difficulty when it comes to primaries. Republicans go through this too when they have to have one. You're not only in an audition to your voters, to your base, who will ultimately decide who is the nominee, you're in an audition to the American people. And the American people always can be swayed one way or the other on a president. It's hard to unseat a sitting president, but the truth of the matter is it can be done. And maybe you got a bad paycheck, maybe you got demoted, maybe you saw a Trump tweet you didn't like, and sooner or later you find yourself looking around. I wonder what else is out there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can't forget right now the leading candidate by a mile in the Democrat Party is Joe Biden. A new poll just came out again this morning having him at 50%. 50%. Between him and all the other candidates in the field, he's not only ahead, he's pulling further ahead. This man is looking like the almost guaranteed nominee at this point in time, and he isn't looking that good on the campaign trail. Trump talked about it.
Hey, do you ever notice where Biden keeps saying he's in the wrong state? Like if he's in Ohio, it's great to be in Iowa tonight. If he's in Pennsylvania, it's wonderful to be in the state of Delaware. What is wrong with this guy? What's wrong with him? There's something wrong. Okay, there's something wrong. No, he keeps, how many times can you do that?
That's a great way to use humor, people. Donald Trump's not doing that by accident. Donald Trump is doing that very much on purpose. He uses humor, he uses these little jabs to tell the truth about his opponents. It's why Crooked Hillary was so effective. People hated that about Trump. And I'll be honest with you, I had times where I don't like it. I still have times where I don't like it, where he labels somebody some nickname as kind of childish. You know, Crooked Hillary, gosh, what are you in grade school? But it matters, and it is effective. And let's not pretend that any one of us know more about branding than Donald Trump, whose name is splashed all over skyscrapers and golf courses across the world. The truth is, Crooked Hillary had a lot of truth to it. And the American people, even ones that liked her, they kind of believe it. You talk to a hardcore Hillary supporter, they'll be like, yeah, little. So when you're constantly calling her Crooked Hillary over and over and over and over again, it mattered. Well, you're going to see more and more of what you just saw right there out of Donald Trump when he goes after Joe Biden, because the truth is, Joe Biden looks and sounds terrible. And it's not once, it's not twice, it's more times than I can count. What Trump just said right there is true. Joe Biden is out there on the campaign trail and doesn't know where he is. Candidates screw up, they travel a lot. I'm not killing the guy for one mistake. You know, everybody can just think they're in Delaware when they're actually in Ohio. That happens on a campaign trail where you're bouncing around. That does not happen 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Mix that in with Joe Biden bleeding from the eyeball. Mix that in with Joe Biden telling insane stories about fighting off some gangster called Corn Pop. I mean, it's not going well. Joe Biden looks terrible, sounds terrible. He looks old and tired, and people are starting to pick at the body now. And plus, he has all this stuff with his son, which he can't adequately explain. And he's doing this thing that Democrats find to be pretty effective because the media is all in their pocket, where anyone who asks him anything about his son, whether it be the Burisma stuff, the extra child stuff, which we're not going to get into, Joe Biden gets really mean and starts yelling at the reporter about it at all times. He does not come across as a leader. He does not come across as anybody confident, and he certainly doesn't come across as somebody in any way competent to be president of the United States. And look, those swing voters we just talked about a minute ago, they're watching all this too, and they're looking at Joe Biden and think, oh gosh, that guy's not going to be president. Well, Donald Trump wasn't just, saving up all his ammo for Joe Biden. He also went after Pete Buttigieg, and I don't know if I say that name correctly, nor do I care. Donald Trump apparently doesn't know how to say it either.
This guy Buttigieg. Can you believe he's doing well? He's like the leading fundraiser. I dream about him. It's true. No, Buttigieg.
Look, he does have a weird name. And you know what's funny? And nobody wants to admit this because everyone wants to act like they're too mature and above board. That will actually matter too. His name looks like Butt. Okay, the start of his name is Butt. You're going to have Butt on all the signs. You can call it Mayor Pete for as long as you want. Butt is going to be on people's yard signs. It looks weird. It sounds weird to people. But look, we don't have to worry about Pete Buttigieg or Buttigieg or whatever his name is winning the nomination. We just don't. Plus, he comes off as angry. I always found his candidacy to be a little bit bizarre. He checks so many boxes that the liberal press would love. They were all ready to fall in love with him. I mean, he's a small town mayor. He's gay. He's got all these things that they like. He's well-spoken, highly educated. I think he's a Mensa guy. But he always came across as kind of bitter, kind of nasty. And you know what? You can be a fighter. You can go after people. You can do those things, but you can't ever come off as bitter. Remember, that's the same reason nobody in the world likes a feminist, because feminists have bitterness dripping from their pores, and nobody wants to be around that. Nobody certainly wants that person to be president of the United States of America. Well, Donald Trump sees the same news that you and I see, and he sees there's been a lot more Hillary talk recently. People are polling, oh, look, Hillary would be in the lead. Hillary this, Hillary that. Could Hillary jump in? So you didn't think he was going to get through an entire rally in Pennsylvania without bringing her up, did you?
You'd have windmills all over the place if you had crooked Hillary. They'd be knocking out those birds left and right. Those windmills, wah, wah, wah. Darling, I want to watch television tonight and there's no damn wind. What do? I want to watch the election results. Darling, there's no wind. The damn wind just isn't blowing like it used to because of global warming, I think. I think it's global warming.
Yeah, he's going to take his shots at Hillary Clinton, taking his shot at the climate change nutters too, and don't think that that's an accident in the state of Pennsylvania, a state that's all about those union jobs, all about steel, all about coal. That climate change stuff is going to be something Donald Trump is going to hit on time and time and time again as he goes back and forth through the Rust Belt. And while we're on the subject, let us just say, that's a loser for Democrats in the Rust Belt. It just is. The Democrats have never found a way to message to people, you need to stop eating a cheeseburger and stop eating steaks, and coal is the devil, and we're going to stop drilling for oil, and oh yeah, vote for me, Ohio. That doesn't work that way. You've got to explain to those people who actually put food on the table how they're going to continue to do so once you rip their industry from their hands. Kind of a political loser. The problem is with the climate change thing, it's a political loser, but there's a ton of money behind it. Democrats are going to have a hard time pulling themselves out of that quagmire, and it's going to be wonderful to watch. Well, Donald Trump also took some time to do his best Adam Schiff voice. I think he kind of missed this one. Schiff sounds way whinier to me, but you decide.
Quickly, here are the facts on Shifty Schiff. This honest guy makes up my statements. He said, the president of Ukraine repeatedly declared that there was no pressure, but he didn't want to say that. We said, say it. Say it, you crooked bastard, say it. But he doesn't want to say it. We said, say it. I'd like to force him to say it. He'll walk up to the mic. Ladies and gentlemen. Guy's a total corrupt guy.
I'm sorry, it makes me laugh. All right, well, you knew Elizabeth Warren was not going to get out of the line of fire because as it looks right now, she's the only one with a chance to overtake Joe Biden. I thought she was going to overtake Joe Biden. This may end up being the first time in the history of mankind that I've been wrong about something because she's kind of flailing in the polls. And look, I've always wanted Donald Trump to face Elizabeth Warren because can you even imagine what he would do to her in the general election? He drives her absolutely nuts. He always has. He's the one that forced her hand to release that horrible DNA test that revealed she's the whitest person on the face of planet Earth. And you don't think Donald Trump is ever going to be shamed into stopping calling her Pocahontas, which he took the time to do last night.
Crazy Elizabeth Warren, or as I affectionately call her, Pocahontas. Well, she's starting to crash again. You know, I thought I knocked her down. I did that heavy Pocahontas deal. I give her credit. I thought she was left for, I mean, there were like just little embers. And then she rose, and she became strong, but then she opened that fresh mouth of hers, and it stopped. It stopped.
See, watching those two go at it in the general election would be high comedy, especially because Elizabeth Warren is such a radical nutter, or at least has become one to try to win the nomination. Donald Trump is very likely going to win 40 states against that nut job. Sadly, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Now, quick state of the race thing now that we did the Trump rally. Remember, people, Joe Biden not only has to become the nominee, which it looks like he will, he has to go toe-to-toe with Donald Trump, not only campaigning in fundraising, and Joe Biden stinks at that too. Joe Biden is not ready for prime time, has never been ready for prime time, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it's 100% true, and people watching it will know Democrats should go get Hillary Clinton. They should. Yes, she's the worst presidential candidate in the history of mankind, but she's still going to do better than Joe Biden. Besides, the Clintons made corruption cool. Joe Biden just runs from it or screams at reporters. Everyone knows the Clintons are dirty. In fact, the Clintons are so dirty, no one even tries to clean them at this point in time. Yeah, we'll take some campaign donations from Saudi Arabia. All right, now, coming up, host of The Roth Effect and creator of the feature file legacy system, Carol Roth. Hang on. Welcome back. Joining me now, one of my favorite people in the world and one of the sharpest business minds out there, Carol Roth, host of The Roth Effect and creator of something I own, the Future File Legacy Planning System. Carol, tell me about these things called markets and such, and trade wars and tariffs. And we don't ever break that stuff down really on this show. I feel like a lot of people, they just see numbers scrolling across the screen and they hear, oh, the jobs report was good. Okay, sounds good. Are we okay? Are we heading for a cliff, or is everything average? Where are we at?
Oh my God, so many things to say. Let me try and make it easy for you. Business in the economy goes through cycles, which means that sometimes it's doing well and sometimes it's not doing well. And the reality is it's very hard to sustain it doing well forever. Just like anything, all good things must come to an end at some point in time. But the good news is they usually come back after they do. We are very late in our business cycle, but because of the Trump tax cuts and a lot of the policies that have decreased regulations, the economy is actually strong. The jobs situation is absolutely amazing. We are at lows from probably the lowest point in about a half a century in terms of unemployment, record lows for minorities and women, which means that people are working, they're putting more money in their pockets, and that's good for the economy because 70% of our economy is consumer spending. So when people make money, what's the American way? Go out and spend all of that cash, and that supports our economy. So that is the good news, Jesse Kelly. The bad news is, on the other side of things, we have businesses, which are generally doing pretty well. But unfortunately, the trade wars that are going on and the increase in potential tariffs from China in a few days causing a lot of uncertainty for businesses, and they're not really sure what's ahead. And when businesses aren't sure what's ahead, they kind of tend to not do anything. So there is a chance that because they decide to not make investments, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They hire less, they make less capital investments, and the business piece ends up starting to drag things down. So that's the possible bad news here. But hopefully, the overall situation looks pretty good, pretty rosy. So hopefully the good outweighs the bad. And the best gift that President Trump could give us is to say, we will not be raising tariffs on goods coming in from China another, X number of percentage in a few days. That would be a really good Christmas gift for us.
Okay, I have a two-part question, but look, I'm a professional, so that's obviously no problem for me to ask the two-part question. But first of all, you talked about how strong everything is, and I understand we do go through cycles, and that eventually, trees don't grow to the sky, nothing goes up forever. Right. Would we be seeing some indication if we were heading for a cliff, or do these things just happen anyway? I understand everything's good, but maybe we're just screwed no matter what, or we're heading for that. Well, that's the first part of my question. The second part is, honestly, as somebody who's really been against tariffs most of my life, I'm not a tariff person. I also have seen the news for the last 3 years of people doomsdaying the tariff talk to me, and the economy keeps going up. Why is this talk any different?
Okay, so the first piece, you're a professional. You can give us it in two pieces. I can't remember two pieces, but I think the first part was about the signal. Does this just kind of happen out of nowhere? I think the thing you want to be watching is, again, 70% of the economy is consumer debt, or excuse me, is consumer spending, and consumers have record levels of debt. Now, they're paying most of that debt on time when it comes to things like their mortgage and their credit cards. They're not doing as well with their student debt and their auto loans, but at least for mortgages and credit cards, they're paying that on time. When you see the consumer start missing payments on their credit cards and their mortgages, that means they are overstretched. That is a big warning sign. So keep an eye out on consumer debt levels and how they're paying that down. So that's the first piece of that. The second piece on the tariffs, listen, I'm with you. Taxing your way to prosperity is not a thing. Tariffs are not great. So far, they haven't really been passed along to the consumers. Businesses and middlemen have been eating that up. But eventually there comes to a breaking point where either profits are going to get hurt or it's going to have to get passed on to the consumer. And I am all for being tough on China. I just feel like we should have a different tactic. We should go after intellectual property and not let them enforce their intellectual property rights in the United States, ban their investment in the United States. I would prefer to see that versus something that ends up coming out of the pockets of Americans. But it's not the tactic that we're in, and we'll see how the art of the deal plays out here.
Now, I'm a Milton Friedman guy, and forgive me if I nerd out just a little bit here. I'm a Milton Friedman guy, and I was always under the impression that the middleman, the businesses, never take those taxes or take those extra costs on the chin, most of the time because they can't afford to do so. Profit margins are a lot less than people actually realize. Yeah. So as soon as they get them, they hand them on to consumers. Why has this case been different, or has everything I've learned my whole life been a bunch of crap?
Well, I consider myself to be Milton Friedman crossed with J-Lo. So I'm going to bring a little pizzazz to the Milton Friedman argument. Eventually, they do get passed on to the consumer if they can. But the nice thing about competition in the market is that people have lots of choices. And so not every business is able to do that. There are different steps in the chain, right? There are the people who are manufacturing it. There's the middleman is the business. There's the consumer buying it. Someone in that chain is paying. So right now, the manufacturers and the middlemen are absorbing that, but eventually they're going to either have to pass that on to the consumer, or it's going to end up hurting their profit margins. And it all depends on the free market for that particular product.
What's going on with the farms? Because you hear these things. Obviously, our farmers are being hurt by tariffs. That's not a mystery. The Trump administration clearly knows that as well. They're announcing, they're handing out all this taxpayer money to farmers, which we all know how the federal government does handing out taxpayer money. I'm not going to go into that at the moment. But are they drowning? Are they actually being picked back up? You don't hear as much about these people now, but they've still got to be hurting, right? Or have they been bailed out somehow?
Well, I think it depends on what you're farming, because there are certain products, like dairy, that are falling more under the USMCA. Obviously, we've got some movement on that, we think, potentially, which could be very good for our dairy farmers. The farmers who focus on soybeans, obviously, they're getting crushed by that because China was contracting with Brazil. We don't know if that market opens back up again. So it really just depends. But the farm question is a difficult one because that is not a free market. It's something that is heavily subsidized by the government. And so all of these different maneuvers and deals will have an outsized impact on them because the market isn't adjusting to what consumers want on a one-by-one basis. We've got a lot of political intervention in the middle.
All right, it's time to go completely ask you the dumbest question you've ever been asked in your life, and you're just going to have to deal with it, Carol, because it's my show. Interest rates. I feel like people do not properly understand how interest rates work, and they find out, oh, they're not raising rates. They're lowering rates. They're raising rates, and people don't understand wait, who are these gods that are raising and lowering my rates? Where does this information come from? Explain to us.
Oh, goodness, this could be an entire show within itself. Obviously, we have a number of different folks who are setting interest rates for different things. We have something called the Federal Reserve that decides how much they are going to let banks lend or loan to banks, what type of interest they loan to banks with. That sets an interest rate called the Federal Reserve interest rate, and then other interest rates get based off of that in the market. It's a really complex discussion, but what people need to take away today is that interest rates are incredibly low. And so everything from the interest that you're paying on your mortgage to the interest that you're paying on your credit card to interest that you're paying for maybe a loan that you lend to your friend, that is all at a historically low rate, which is good in a sense, but is also bad because it allows people to speculate. Businesses can borrow money at a very low rate. And when people say, oh, well, there's not a huge penalty for borrowing this money, they tend to make more risky decisions than when they're paying a higher rate. And that potentially leads to overinflation of assets, like people buying a $120,000 banana duct taped to a wall at Art Basel.
I don't know what the worst that could happen is if a bunch of businesses are giving out loans that people can't pay back. I don't understand how anything could go wrong.
Yeah,
there.
We've never seen that movie before. It's never gone wrong.
All right, Carol, Christmas time. Is there a Roth family Christmas tradition? Do you travel? Do you stay home? Do you make a great meal? Do you not give out gifts? Do you not even celebrate Christmas? Are you a Kwanzaa person?
Yeah, so I actually celebrate both Christmas and Hanukkah. I am Jewish, but my father raised us with Christmas because he didn't want us to be left out, even though we lived in an all-Jewish community. We were the only people that Santa came for. And I had to explain to my friends that the reason Santa came to our house and not theirs is because he liked me better. So we don't necessarily, we obviously try to get together with family during the week. But this year, during the broader Christmas, Hanukkah season, my big thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to clean out my closets. And I'm hoping to find some things that I've never seen before. And it'll be like finding something new that I can wear the next time I come on the Jesse Kelly Show.
I have this image of what Carol Roth's closet must look like. And I have to tell you, Carol, it's like the Taj Mahal of the amount of clothes and shoes I can imagine that you probably have contained in that thing. Carol Roth.
Multiple closets, Jesse, not just one closet, multiple closets. If that gives you any sense of the scope we're talking about here.
Of course. That's about exactly what I had pictured. Carol, host of the Roth Effect broadcast. You have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah?
Happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas to you as well.
Be good. Coming up, I'm going to explain to you why Democrats like Barack Obama more than George Washington and why you really need to not be surprised by that. Hang on. Okay, this new poll came out. It came out yesterday. And everybody, especially on the right, they're freaking out about this poll. They're making fun of Democrats for it. They're saying Democrats are a bunch of crazy people, which they are, but that's not the point of all this. And the poll essentially showed, well, not essentially, it showed that a lot of people, basically, I think it was 63% of Democrats said, oh, Barack Obama was a better president than President George Washington. I'm not making that up. That's in the poll. And ladies and gentlemen, here is what the truth is. Any entity, anybody, a human being, a corporation, a country, when they are under attack, you have one instinct that comes to your mind first and foremost every single time. You walk into the doctor's office today, and many of you have had this happen, sadly, and you find out you have cancer. What's your first instinct? First, number one, no, I don't. I want a second opinion. You see this happen with countries as they're being invaded throughout history. Well, that can't be right. Stalin was famous for this when the Germans finally invaded Russia. He thought his people were lying to him. Corporations will find this. What do you mean we're bankrupt? No, we're not. Go check again. Those numbers. Denial, ladies and gentlemen, denial. And why are we in denial? Why do people go to denial? Well, they go to denial because it's comforting. Because the last thing you want as a human being is change, let alone massive change. You certainly don't ever want to find out that the world you live in or the world you think you live in is much, 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 much different than reality. Sadly, the Republican Party, people on the right, conservatives, libertarians, whatever you want to call yourself, they suffer from this, and they suffer from this badly. They saw this poll come out yesterday, and oh my gosh, Democrats are, what? This can't be right. What's wrong? But ladies and gentlemen, do you not understand what you're up against? Because I don't think you do. I saw the outrage. I saw the outcry about it. This is what the Democrat Party is. George Washington was a man who helped put into place a government that is extremely limited. A federal government that is only allowed by the Constitution to do a few things. The rest of it was all supposed to go to the states. George Washington had several famous quotes about how dangerous government was. Government is fire. That's one of George Washington's amazing quotes. Dangerous, very, very dangerous, he saw government. George Washington, the system of government he put into place, the things George Washington believed is the antithesis of everything the modern Democrat Party stands for. And the reason people have such a hard time wrapping their minds around that on the right is because you don't want to acknowledge that you don't have a political opponent. You don't have a party that just, we're arguing over the same basic things. They just see things a little differently. That was JFK's Democrat Party, people. You could even say that was Bill Clinton's Democrat Party. The modern day Democrat Party wants to rip this country up from the roots and burn it to the ground. I know that makes you uncomfortable. I know it does. I don't take any pleasure in saying it either. I wish we could just, we'll come together on a couple things and have a robust debate. People, we're $23 trillion in debt, and they're trying to rip out all the rich people and pass Medicare for all. They're trying to pass climate change legislation that would wipe the nation out. We have presidential candidates openly campaigning on sending law enforcement to your door and forcibly confiscating your weapons. These are not pie-in-the-sky things that you hear in some idiot college class anymore. This is mainstream. This is the modern Democrat Party. It is time to wake up. It is time to stop believing in Santa Claus if you're a Republican and start believing in the simple reality of it. You are facing an extreme problem. You are facing an extreme insurgency in your country. The Democrat Party is the anti-American insurgent party. You know what one question you could ask every single Democrat on stage at the next Democrat presidential debate and would make every single one of them squirm? You know what that question would be? Tell me what you love about America. Can you imagine them trying to answer that? Every single debate, every single candidate, it's, we stink because of this, and we stink, and this is unfair, and obviously that's unfair, and this is racist, and that's sexist, that's very misogynist. This is the evil, we'll eat the rich for sure. And look, we've always been a racist country, and obviously we've done this wrong. We're a terrible. Tell me what you love about America. They couldn't answer it because sadly, that is the very first tenet of the modern Democrat Party is you cannot love the United States of America. I've had this argument with people before, especially when I talk about all the things the left has invaded and infected. And they do this on purpose. You can't watch a movie anymore without getting blasted in the face with new leftist crap. They even announced the new Star Wars film was going to have LGBT representation. Of course it is. Yeah. It's 2% of the population, but you have to get beat over the face with it all the time. You can't watch a football game anymore without having a new leftist cause. Oh, he's kneeling for the flag. Well, because America's racist. You can't go to school. You can't do anything without being beaten over the face with it. And you know the main response I get back from the left? I'm not making this up. You know what it is? How could you say that? You get beaten over the face with things on the right all the time. You turn on a football game and there's the military and cops there. Wait, what? The military? The flag? The Pledge of Allegiance? Police officers are now only things people on the right support? Yeah. I'm sorry, but yeah. That's what they believe. Open your eyes. Welcome to the real world. Stop believing it's your dad's Democrat Party, it's your grandpa's Democrat Party, and live in the reality. It is important to understand the nature of what you're facing. Do you think cops are being videotaped, having water thrown on them, being spat on in New York City? You think suicides are going through the roof on the police force while Bill de Blasio craps on the police force every chance he gets? Do you think that's just an abnormality? You think the same stuff's happening in Portland, San Francisco, on all these major liberal cities, and you think it's just, it's just an anomaly. That's totally... Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the mainstream Democrat Party. I'm not even slightly surprised that 63% of Democrats think Barack Obama was a better president than George Washington. I'm only surprised the number isn't in the 90s. People, that's what the party has become. They are Barack Obama's America sucks, we got to burn it down party. That was his attitude for 8 years of his presidency. It's now the attitude of the modern Democrat Party. Which candidate stands up there on the stage and talks about the greatness of America? You've seen those same old speeches I have, the JFK ones, like even the Bill Clinton ones. You've seen them. Don't discount the little signs they show you all the time. They had to be shamed into flying an American flag at their national convention. Let me repeat that. They had to be shamed into flying the flag of our country at their national convention. Somebody actually put on a National Democrat convention, looked at the stage without a single flag on it, and thought to themselves, we nailed it. That's exactly what we want to be. That's what they are. That's what they are. Sorry. I know you've been taught your whole life that the sky is blue. Might have to accept the fact the sky is green. And that's a bitter pill to swallow, like I said. That tough talk in the doctor's office. You find out your country's being invaded. You find out your house is bankrupt, your business is. What's your first instinct? No, it's not. No. People, time to grow up. Accept reality so you can deal with reality. Well, look, I'm going to try to explain something to you that may be difficult for our older viewers, but it does matter. There is this new digital age out there. I know that's not exactly news, but it is the social media age, the age of Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and all these other 8 million things. Look, I don't understand half of them either, so don't feel left out if you don't. But in this digital age, campaigns have to get a little younger, a little funnier. They have to come up with dumb little internet videos that get people excited, that make people laugh. That is the new nature of campaigning. Donald Trump didn't invent it. It's not going to die when he's out of office. This is the future of campaigning. I will say this about the Trump campaign. I try not to wear anybody's pajamas on this show, not because I'm above all that, but because I'm jaded, I have no heart, and I don't believe in anything anyway. I try not to wear anybody's pajamas. So, allow me to say this. The Trump campaign does digital, they do funny, they do snappy, they do what we call trolling, which is when you're just trying to get the other side mad. They do that as well as any Republican campaign I have ever seen in my entire lifetime. They have not only their official campaign team, they have all the Trump fans online come up with these hilarious little internet pictures and gifs and videos, and they are pants-wetting funny. Now, most of the time, this is just a dude or a chick in her apartment somewhere coming up with something creative and snappy and funny, and they fire it out there. Well, Donald Trump, President of the United States, Donald Trump, he does things a little different than others. Rather than having to worry about being presidential, I'm above all that. He'll take the stuff that he thinks is really funny and really clever, and he'll put it out there himself. He'll retweet somebody's goofy little video they put out there. He's done it several times. People totally unaffiliated with him, and it drives the press absolutely batty. So we all saw the Avengers movies, at least according to the box office numbers. Everybody on the planet saw the movies 2 or 3 times. Well, Thanos was the really bad guy in the Avengers movies, and he had this thing that he could do where he would snap his fingers and everybody on the planet, or on all the planets, look, don't get me started, would disappear. Well, look, here's the video.
I am inevitable.
On this solemn day, I recall that the first order of business for members of
That's so good. Is it childish? Yes, it's childish. Of course it is. It's also hilarious. It shows some creativity. It also shows that Trump and his team, they don't take themselves too seriously. And that is asking a lot as president of the United States of America, because that has to be one of the most stressful jobs on the planet. When you can see a video like that and send it out there, it's funny. It's funny. That's all. Well, as you can imagine, the guardians of our democracy, or as they call themselves, the media had to freak out once again about some little dumb internet video that gave everybody a snicker. Here's Don Lemon.
What are we, in junior high school? Like, what the hell? What is this? Like, what? What? I cannot believe that I'm even having to report this on the news. This is crazy. This is literally crazy. Are you people insane? Are you insane? Go ahead. Troll the Democrats on Twitter. Do this stupid, silly, you know what? Play this stupid, juvenile meme game.
See, people, this is oh, by the way, before I get to that, Trump War Room is a Twitter account out there. I actually don't know if it's affiliated with Trump or not, but it says, quote, "Our thoughts and prayers go out to Don Lemon and CNN Tonight and CNN during this incredibly difficult time. Mr. Lemon, we are so sorry this is happening to you." And look, this is the problem, people. And I will tell you, I don't do a ton of inside baseball stuff on the media world and how all this pundit stuff works in TV shows and radio shows. I have both, not to brag or anything like that. But I will tell you this, one thing I've really learned, all these people take themselves really, really, really seriously. Way too seriously. And I mean, it is across the spectrum. People honestly think they stand in front of the television and they speak to you and they think they're changing the world. They think they're saving the world. They think they're defending freedom. People, I'm just trying to make your evening a little bit more enjoyable. Maybe we'll learn a little something along the way. I ain't changing the world, and I'm never going to get butthurt about a president putting out a little dumb internet video. That I can promise you. We'll be back to do this again tomorrow. We'll see you then.